Hi there guys, for this video I'm going to do something different. I usually do my videos on wrestling, but seeing as it's now like 20 years from the very first American Pie film, still can't believe it's been 20 years since it was made. I came across this article which was on The Guardian, and I thought I would give my opinions on it. American Pie could never be made today. Okay, see what this says. Just the premise of high school boys vowing by hook or by crook to lose their virginity before prom feels like a game of Russian roulette with 4 bullets in the chamber. Per their own guidelines, it has to be valid consensual sex. Nothing with prostitutes, but the timeline doesn't exactly incentivize good behaviour, especially when they decide that working together is the best way you can make it happen. And that's before you get to some of the film's more dubious particulars, like filming a foreign exchange student naked without her knowledge and broadcasting it via webcam to the entire class. That was the Nadia part. The resolution is quite poor for what it's worth. There's only so much that can survive a dial-up modem. Yet 20 years later, American Pie is being made all the time. It's been made in The 40-Year-Old Virgin, in Superbad, in Neighbours, in Booksmart, in the constant flow of cringe-inducing comedies and Love and Friendship among the sexually inexperienced. Okay, I'll carry on. The films have evolved with the culture and frankly a healthy shift in the rules of engagement, but they're part of a long continuum of teen or man-child sex romps that deal in humiliating rites of passage. For male viewers especially, it's a perverse form of escapism. They can recognise how awkward and embarrassing those first sexual encounters tend to be, but hey, at least they didn't liken a woman's breasts to bags of sand or get caught dipping their wick into a warm apple pie. I'm guessing by this so far the person who wrote this is not much of a fan of American Pie. I thought the American Pie films, I thought this was a great film. And I'll continue. In 1999, American Pie was at the end of one phase and the beginning of another, which is why it seems both dated and prescient and a relic from a randier era of cable-ready frat house and gross-out comedies, and a look ahead to a sweeter brand of raunch rooted in deep friendships and the possibility of a more mature, longer-lasting romance. At the time, the Farrelly brothers' hits Kingpin and There's Something About Mary were sparking a can you top this cycle of R-rated comedies that carried into the early 2000s, with titles now either forgotten. Say It Isn't So, Slackers, Waiting, or Not Worth Remembering, Scary Movie, National Lampoon's Van Wilder. Critics were divided on American Pie's contributions to the trend. The infamous pie, the semen in a beer cup. Hell, I remember that one. The mochaccino spiked with laxatives. But they were by no means the lowest of the low, and these set pieces were the big draw, just as they were a year earlier with There's Something About Mary, when the hair gel scene and the zipper scene were shorthand hooks that brought people to theatres regardless of the actual premise. The film also worked in the post-Animal House tradition of boys behaving badly, specifically Porky's, which was also about nerdy high school students who made a pact to lose their virginity. The webcam in American Pie was merely a tech update on the locker room peephole that Porky's plastered on its poster, and both films were fully prepared to deliver the voyeuristic kick they promised. There would be nudity, and with American Pie, an unrated home video version that suggested, but didn't deliver, material that was too hot for MPAA. 3 sequels and a direct-to-video spin-off series down the line. However, it's worth reflecting on the specific magic that made American Pie the sensation its predecessors and imitators were not. Much of it has to do with the casting, which brought together several stars or near stars of tomorrow before they were recognisable faces. Eugene Levy and Jennifer Coolidge were the only established comic talents. Levy, out of some mercenary sense of obligation, would be the only star to appear in all 8 American Pie movies. That's Jim's dad. And Alison Hannigan had completed a couple of seasons of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but Jason Biggs, Chris Klein, Tara Reid, Mina Suvar, Natasha Lyonne, Sean William Scott and Shannon Elizabeth were mostly unknown, and John Cho, who comments briefly on Coolidge's milfy appeals, was still 5 years away from the first Harold and Kumar film. Directors Paul and Chris Weitz, working from a script by Adam Hertz, give American Pie a democratic quality that allows all these young actors a chance to set themselves apart, though the boys naturally get more opportunities than the girls. Biggs, Klein, Thomas, Ian Nichols and Eddie Kay. Thomas play the 4 virgins on the prowl, and they all eventually get what they want, but not before the universe punishes them for their efforts. Hannigan, Suvar, Reid and Coolidge are respectively the partners who generously escort them into manhood, half by their own sexual aggression. Coolidge as a Mrs. Robinson type, Hannigan as a dorky flutist who had an awakening this one time at band camp, and the other half by romantic coercion. As Jim Levenstein, Biggs constantly hurls himself into a buzzsaw of sexual mortification, which the film shrewdly casts as at once identifiable and wildly over the top. It's common for teenage boys to squint at softcore porn, though, the bars on premium cable channels, or to get caught masturbating by a parent, or to fumble out the inexperience of overexcitement. But it's uncommon to have mom squeal at a boner in a sweat sock, or dad come home to the pie wreckage, or the entire school witness a strict tease act followed by 2 straight instances of premature ejaculation. Yeah, poor Jim. Through all the cringing, there's the comfort that many have had experiences like Jim's, but nothing so epically hapless and clumsy, and no hearts with dad afterwards to heighten the agony. American Pie emphasises the camaraderie of the group and the harmless good nature of its members, who maybe aren't in the category of regrettable lovers at all, but it gives so little thought to the opposite sex, who are either brazenly lusty or careful gatekeepers of their own chastity. Waiting for an I love you or some other show of sensitivity is like a password at a speakeasy. Women seem as inexplicable to the filmmakers themselves as they are to the characters. That's been the unfortunate part of the continuum of teen sex comedies to long before American Pie, and we're past it. Wow, that's come across as very negative, this. There's a moment in the film oh, excuse me, that deals with the fallout from Jim's webcam encounter with Nadia, that's Elizabeth, the foreign exchange student. Jim's classmates are all pointing and laughing, of course, at his goofy striptease and sexual ineptitude. But Nadia has been disappeared from the scene, hastily booted back to Slovakia. She'll appear again at the end, happily taking in more dancing via webcam, but the film is never conscious of how she might actually feel. For Jim, their bedroom, when Divas, probably said that wrong, but was another in a series of screw-ups to get over. For Nadia, it meant immediate exile to the hinterlands of Eastern Europe. American Pie may not be about her, but in a film about a young man going through emotional and sexual rites of passage, she's just another bump in the road. Oh, okay, that's that. Well, maybe Nadia was like totally embarrassed by the whole thing, which she most likely was, and then decided to go back home. I don't know. But as I said at like the start of the video, I love the American Pie films. I thought they were great. Could they be made today in the same way they were 20 years ago? Probably not. Due to the way that like the world has changed, especially people's perception of things. Um, but this article I just feel was very negative, and I got the impression that whoever wrote this wasn't a fan of the American Pie films. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like, subscribe, and don't forget to share, and I'll see you next time.